The pipes were older than anyone alive. From orbit they looked like faint scars, pale threads stretching from the interior deserts to the polar ice, crossing coastlines, mountain chains, abandoned cities, and thriving ones. Up close they were less elegant, kilometers of fused polymer and composite ribs, patched, reinforced, layered over centuries of maintenance and redesign. They were not monuments, they worked. In the austral summer, hot air entered the northern intakes with a low, continuous thunder. Solar fields shimmered beside them, mirrors adjusting by fractions of degrees, feeding power to fans the size of stadiums. Far to the south, valves inhaled Antarctic cold and released moderated currents back into circulation. The effect was subtle. It had always been subtle. The desert plateau that once peaked at lethal temperatures now hovered within survivable range most days of the season. Settlement corridors followed the gradient lines. Agriculture crept outward in disciplined increments. Children grew up assuming the wind had always sounded like this. Mara had grown old with the system. Her granddaughter, Sierra, had never known a world without the hum. In Control Chamber 9, Sierra studied a series of long-term overlays. 200 years of atmospheric modeling condensed into layered transparencies. Dust transport, jet stream drift, ocean nutrient cycles, insect migration, plankton bloom variants. "Run the regression again," she said. The system complied without drama. Across the room, Jalen, who had inherited his position from no one in particular but had earned it the usual way, by not being careless, leaned against the railing. "You're looking for ghosts," he said. "I'm looking for consistency." The new data had arrived from equatorial monitoring stations 3 weeks earlier. A modest shift in upper atmosphere particulate flow, nothing extreme, no famine, no storms out of scale with history. But the drift pattern had bent, slightly, measurably, toward a configuration that the earliest pipe architects had classified as low probability. Low probability was not the same as impossible. "Correlation doesn't imply," Jalen began. "I know." She overlaid a second dataset, long-term ocean iron distribution. The curve wavered, not collapsed, wavered. The stillness would call it vindication. The stillness had outlived ridicule. They had begun as pamphleteers and field ecologists, planting independent sensors along the pipe corridors. Over generations, they had become something quieter and more resilient, archivists of unintended consequences. They did not sabotage. They did not storm control rooms. They measured. On the northern plateau, an elder named Terk stood beside one of their original wind towers, a skeletal structure older than his grandparents. It still functioned. Its polymer had yellowed, its bearings sang in certain crosswinds. A young student adjusted the calibration ring. "The latest drift aligns with projection set 3, she said. Terk nodded. "Within tolerance, for now." He gazed toward the horizon where the pipe rose from the sand like a second geography. He did not hate it. His own brother had worked maintenance for 40 years. "Send the dataset," he said. "Unfiltered." A century earlier there had been an incident, not catastrophe, not collapse, a seasonal amplification that rippled through coastal fisheries half a world away. Models adjusted, fan velocities recalibrated. The system absorbed the anomaly. It was after that event that the expansion proposal, doubling volumetric capacity, was quietly archived. No one dismantled the pipes. No one suggested it seriously. Entire cities depended on the moderated gradients now. Trade networks, water routing, architectural standards, all had evolved around assumptions the pipes reinforced. Inheritance had thickened. Sierra stood on the outer walkway at dusk. The surface beneath her boots was layered history. Early sections crude by modern standards, mid-century reinforcements, smart composites embedded in later decades capable of micro-adjustments along the shell. The wind vibrated through her bones. She remembered a story told in training. The first generation had believed they were solving heat. The second believed they were building civilization. The third realized they were altering planetary conversation. The fourth stopped naming it. She watched a maintenance crew below replace a shutter actuator. Efficient, casual, no sense of heroism, just work. Her tablet chimed. Incoming stillness archive. She opened it. Side-by-side comparisons, independent verification. Their numbers matched hers within statistical noise. She smiled despite herself. The truth did not belong to factions. In a joint session months later, the chamber was full but not crowded. Engineers, ecologists, systems theorists, representatives from settlement councils, stillness observers. No raised voices. Projection curves floated above the central table. Jalen gestured toward a model. The drift is real. Magnitude remains within adaptive range. Terk, older now, slower in movement but not in mind, inclined his head. Agreed. Worst-case extrapolation. Someone asked. Gradual amplification over 2 centuries, Sierra said. Manageable, possibly reversible with phased reductions. A murmur, not alarm, calculation. And the human cost, a council representative asked. Reduced agricultural margin, Jalen replied. Incremental relocation in outer zones, nothing immediate. The word hung in the air, immediate. The pipes had been built to avoid immediacy. Terk folded his hands. We do not request dismantlement. A few eyebrows lifted. We request humility, he continued. Acknowledge that each correction introduces a debt, plan for repayment. Silence, thoughtful. Sierra felt the weight of centuries in that pause. Years passed. Fan algorithms were adjusted marginally. Certain seasonal peaks were allowed to rise half a degree higher than before. Agricultural expansion slowed by policy rather than necessity. New settlements were designed with thermal resilience instead of reliance. The pipes continued to breathe. Dust drifted differently now. Slightly, oceans adapted. Fisheries shifted but did not collapse. Insects traced altered arcs across continents. Children studied both the pipe protocols and the stillness archive as parallel texts. Dependency did not vanish. Neither did doubt. On the 200th anniversary of the first full-gradient operation, Sierra, hair silver, posture still straight, stood beside Terk's successor beneath the northern intake. The air thundered overhead. Do you regret it? The younger woman asked. Sierra considered. We inherited a planet that was never neutral, she said. We chose to answer it. And now we learn how softly we can speak. Above them, the pipe shimmered in the heat. Beyond it, the desert stretched, less lethal than it had once been, still vast, still capable of swallowing carelessness whole. The wind shifted. Sensors recorded. Children ran along the embankment, chasing each other between shadows cast by the massive structure. Some would become engineers, some ecologists, some both, some neither. The data streams continued, twin rivers of interpretation. No alarms sounded. No triumph was declared. The pipes breathed across continents, carrying moderated gradients through their colossal arteries. The planet adjusted as it always had. And humanity, attentive, divided, cooperative, uncertain, remained within the conversation.